Hey guys, it's time for the 8th Patreon Q&A. As some of you guys know, every other month I do a patron Q&A, answering the questions from my supporters. And since the last Q&A, I've changed up the Patreon structure, added rewards, and one of the rewards for the Admiral tier is to submit a video question. This is a new thing that I'm excited about. Got a couple submissions and I can't wait to show them to you. So if you want to get in on the fun and ask a question, and October is going to be the next one. October 1st around there is the next Q&A. Head to patreon.com/HelloGreedo. I'll leave a link in the video description below. The first question comes from Admiral Tony Zotti, Starisma Tone, and I'll let him ask it.
Hi HG, it's a real dream realised to be on one of your videos. Anyway, my question is, with its conspicuous absence from D23, we're now hearing that an acting coach was hired for Alden Ehrenreich on Han Solo movie. Knowing that you're a big fan of the character, Ron Howard gives you a call and asks you to be that coach. What tips would you give to Alden to bring the happy days, pardon the pun, back to this much maligned standalone? Keep on being the best trooper out there. Salutations from London.
Interesting. Well, obviously, I don't know shit about acting, right? But if I was to talk to Alden Ehrenreich, if I was his acting coach, I would probably tell him to just be loose with it. You know, the character of Han Solo is naturally just kind of laid back, a little cocky, a little cocksure, has some swagger. Obviously, yes, take it seriously, but at the same time, don't take it too serious. Don't box yourself in. Don't be too stiff. Have fun with it. Improvise where you can. Have a little swagger to your step. Especially at the age where he's going to be playing Han Solo. At that age, I mean, I can't even imagine how cocky Han Solo was, right? Smirking, laughing at stupid ideas, being way too sure of himself in the cantina, getting into trouble. So I think an actor that has that same kind of bravado, that cocky attitude, and brings that out naturally in the character, is one of the most important things to bring to the Han Solo character as an actor. Yes, you have to, I guess, kind of sound like him. Yes, you kind of have to kind of look like him. But I think the most important thing to capture is just that unspeakable attitude, that attitude of, I'm the best. I hope that makes sense. I appreciate the question, Tony. Star Wars Ramblings asks, and I'll let him read it as well.
Hey Greedo, I hope that you're having a good one. And before we get into my question, I just want to say thank you so much for the content that you've given me over the past 3 years, I think, since I first discovered your channel. You earned my support over on Patreon with every single video, so keep them coming. Now, with that said, my question is, what is your favorite moment from your least favorite Star Wars film? For example, I may not have been a huge fan of Rogue One, but seeing Red and Gold Leader show up and the Star Destroyers split apart in that space battle was amazing. Just wondering why not you've got a yeah Star Wars from a movie that may not have lived up to your expectations. Thank you, Greedo, and I will see you around. Take care.
I'm completely with you when it comes to those Rogue One shots you mentioned. I did not mind seeing Gold Leader back in action. I thought that was really neat to reuse that footage. It looked seamless. It looked spot on. It was kind of a nice little callback, subtle, you know? Those kind of little winks to the audience, I appreciate. More so than like just having R2-D2 and C-3PO in a hangar. I thought that was goofy as shit. But yeah, seeing Gold Leader, and even those, the Star Destroyers crashing into one another was great. One of my favorite things about Rogue One were the X-Wings coming down, trying to get into the shield before it closed, and just fucking barreling down and just going as fast as they could, trying to get through, a couple of them crashing, you know, sacrificing themselves to try to get through there, help the guys on the ground, get the mission done. I loved that little moment. And to specifically answer your question, it's a tough one for me. I mean, my least favorite Star Wars film is Attack of the Clones. There's not much I like about Attack of the Clones, but the moment I think I like more than any other in that film is when the Clone War actually begins. And I think Yoda says something like, the Clone War, obviously he says it backwards, but begun the Clone Wars have, something like that. But yeah, just the, I guess, historic nature of that moment. You know, when I hear that, I think about Obi-Wan and A New Hope, talking about, I fought alongside your father in the Clone Wars. Just that historic bridge from Attack of the Clones when that actually happens, and granted, I didn't really care for the implementation of it that much, but the overall arching historic moment that bridges these two films, this franchise, is pretty neat. And like I said, obviously I don't like Attack of the Clones that much. Didn't really care for how the Clone Wars was implemented in the franchise. But just that moment, that bridge, I think is pretty great. And I appreciate the shit out of the question, Star Wars Ramblings. I hope your channel is doing great. And I appreciate the support, man. Chris asks, here's something I've been wondering. What is Discord and how is the HG community using it? I could research this, but I'd rather hear it from a stormtrooper. Thanks, Chris. Well, Discord is like, I guess, a mix of TeamSpeak, Skype, and a chat room. So users can join it and play games together. It's really focused on a gaming community. You can chit-chat with people. I've set up a HelloGreedo Discord server, and you guys can join in, talk to one another, play some games with one another. And the community is really using it just to have fun. I see a lot of people playing PUBG together, setting up games of Cards Against the Galaxy, which is like a Cards Against Humanity spin-off that they've created. And yeah, it's really just like a chat room that also has voice chat rooms, and everybody's just using it to have fun. And you should absolutely join it, Chris. It's pretty neat. I think there's like a little over 1,300 members on it right now, so it's pretty awesome. The next question comes from the Movie Critic Dude. I apologize for not sending a question over to the previous Q&A as it slipped my mind, as I was very busy at the time. But anyway, my question for this Q&A, how do you feel upon if the new Star Wars films ever had a crossover event with the Star Trek films, J.J. Abrams versions? What story and events would you see in character interactions, either heroes or villains? Well, first off, the Movie Critic Dude, I would never want to see that. I would absolutely never want to see a crossover movie, whether it be Star Wars and Star Trek, Star Wars and the Marvel movies. Unless, of course, it's for a goof. It's like a joke thing that they're doing for some goofy online video. But in terms of being a movie, I hate the idea. Like the idea of Marvel characters or Star Trek characters interacting with Star Wars characters, it doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, maybe they're all in the same universe, this universe that we're all a part of. And Star Wars just happens to be in a galaxy far, far away, and Star Trek is in our galaxy and our solar system for the most part, where Starfleet is. Anyway, I really don't like the idea of meshing things like that together that really don't belong together. I mean, imagine Captain Picard and Darth Vader interacting. It would be interesting. I feel like Picard and the Enterprise and Starfleet would immediately want to eradicate Darth Vader and the Empire for being completely oppressive to the galaxy. I don't know, in terms of that, it's kind of interesting to think about, but do I want it? Hell no. The next question comes from Orson Krennic. Hello, Greedo. I just want to say how much I enjoy your channel. Most importantly, thank you for your service and good luck on the book. Many of us are looking forward to it. Well, thank you, Orson Krennic. I appreciate the kind words. You didn't really have a question there, but I thank you so much for your support. And you mentioned the book. Yes, I'm still working on it. It's more of a project than I initially thought it would be. I thought it wouldn't take me that long, but I really find that I'm very nitpicky and particular about what I'm writing, and sometimes I'll read a sentence and then the next day I'll read that same sentence that I loved the previous day, and now I hate that sentence, you know? So I'm very nitpicky. I'm trying to figure it out. I've got like 110 pages written so far, and I've been deleting stuff and adding stuff. But yeah, I'm hoping to flesh it out, maybe get a couple more chapters finalized, and then get it out. I know I've keep saying like in a couple months, and it's been a couple months already. But it definitely will happen. It's just hard to find the time with everything else that I'm doing, you know, to actually sit down and hash out some words. But rest assured that it is coming. I already have all the cover art and everything done. Like I said, I have 110 pages written, and I really like it so far. And I hope you guys do too. But as soon as I get it out and ready for publishing, you guys will be the first to know. Josh Powis asks, okay, I haven't really seen anything said about your views on this, so I was wondering, what are your honest views on how the prequels were done? What do you like? What did you not like? What did you think of Anakin's betrayal? Do you think it should have been done differently? I would like to see your opinions. I'm General Kenobi, by the way. Oh, nice. General Kenobi from the Discord server. I didn't have the courage to do a video, so I just stuck with this. That's all right, Josh. I completely understand, dude. Josh is referring to the fact that he is a admiral in the Patreon ranks, which means he can submit one of the video questions that was submitted earlier in this video that you guys saw. But maybe next time, Josh. Trust me, I completely understand. And to answer your question, when it comes to the prequels, the thing that I actually like is just the overall, I guess, the broad look of the story. You know, an up-and-coming good guy Jedi turning to the dark side. He has some shit happen to him in his life that kind of turns him. He's a little seduced by power, by someone else who is also seeking power. The entire broad spectrum of the story, I think, is pretty great. It was just the execution that I thought was really goofy and didn't feel right. In terms of Anakin's betrayal, I felt like it was a little rushed. I mean, we had 3 movies to view it, but it was pretty shallow in my opinion. There wasn't much depth there. And it's really strange to me because a lot of people love Anakin's betrayal. They think it's brilliant. They think it was really well done. And then at some point I'm like, are we watching the same movie? Because I don't get those feelings from these scenes or anything like that. I don't know, but like I said, I really think when you look at the entire prequel trilogy, just from a simple story on paper, I think it's a really neat idea. It's just basically the execution of those ideas I thought felt really flat, and they fell really flat on me personally. But a lot of people like them. And nowadays I have a hard time like really talking about the prequels. Not because I like them any more than I used to, not because I'm worried that people are gonna disagree with me, because trust me, that's been the story of this channel since its inception. It's just that I've come to terms with them. I've kind of just accepted them for what they are, if that makes sense. And yeah, I just basically accept them for what they are. There's no change in them. There's no use bitching about them any more than I already have. But yeah, I hope that answered your question, Josh. And maybe next time you'll submit that video. I'm looking forward to it, man. Simon Shackleton asks, HelloGreedo, I would like to say I enjoy your channel and have done so for quite some time, and thank you for putting a smile on all of our faces. The question I put forward is, what was your favorite parody to film, and do you ever watch your own channel at home? Oh, that's an interesting question, Simon. Probably my favorite parody that I've ever done is Inside Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Just because of the opening sequence that I filmed with Jar Jar. It was like a To Catch a Predator spoof. I'm sure you guys have seen it. With Jar Jar and me, and we get into a little blaster fight. And it was really fun to shoot that because I'd never really done anything that in-depth before. And yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty easy little effect to do, right? Basically, I just set up my camera on the tripod, started filming. I mimed to the dialogue that I had recorded, and then when I was done with that portion, let's say I was Jar Jar, I would change out of my Jar Jar clothes, change into my HelloGreedo clothes, get in position while the camera's still rolling, and then turn on the audio and mime to the dialogue for me, if that makes sense. I don't know, that was probably my favorite one to film just because I really just kind of was trying something, you know, something that I had never done before. A little more in-depth, a little more necessary planning for camera placement and stuff like that. The technical aspect is something that I really enjoyed with that video. And you asked if I ever watch my channel at home. Occasionally I'll go back and watch some of my older videos. I don't regularly watch my stuff, unless of course I upload something that day. Then of course I will watch the video a few times, especially before I publish it and make it public. just to make sure it's hashed out and everything's good. Occasionally I'll watch a video just because somebody like put a timestamp in the comment section and made a comment about a certain frame or something like that. I'll click it and watch it and see what they're talking about. But for the most part, no, I don't really watch my channel that often. It might surprise some of you guys. I'm really just here to upload stuff, not watch my watch my own stuff and pat myself on the back, you know. Jack Evans asks, my question is, what is your opinion, thoughts, agreements, disagreements of Red Letter Media's Half in the Bag Rogue One review? P.S. The intro is the funniest shit I have ever seen from RLM. Well, first, I absolutely love Red Letter Media. It's my favorite YouTube channel. And I pretty much agreed. It's been months since I've watched that video, but I remember agreeing with almost everything. I don't know. It was interesting to see the comparisons between what I thought, what they thought, and even Chris Stuckman. Me and him see eye to eye on a lot of things when it comes to Rogue One. So while a lot of other reviewers absolutely loved it, it was interesting to see this like circle forming of YouTubers who didn't really like it that much. You know, we appreciated it for what it was, but it didn't really impact us as much as it impacted a lot of other people. So yeah, for the most part, I do agree with their review. Almost 100%, I would say. Especially the stuff about them talking about how everything is just rehashed. We already know, what was it? ATSTs. That kind of stuff. You know, rehashing stuff and not really putting anything new out there. That's the aspect of their review that I really agree with. So, yeah, but thanks for the question, Jack. RLM is awesome. Owen Murator asks, hi, HelloGreedo. First, I love your channel and all your parodies are hilarious. Well, thank you. My question is, what is your favorite Star Wars toy? Mine is the 3,800-piece Lego Death Star. What's yours? I'll have to go back and think about my childhood, the one that I played with the most. Because nowadays, I don't really collect anything. I don't really buy any action figures. I told myself I was going to buy an action figure for every new Star Wars movie. I bought a Stormtrooper action figure for The Force Awakens. And I did not buy an action figure for Rogue One. I don't know why, I just didn't have that much of a desire. But yeah, I don't really buy any new toys. I don't really collect anything when it comes to that. But my favorite all-time Star Wars toy would probably be... Man, I would say the one that I played with the most as a kid was Luke Skywalker's speeder. Just because I would put all the characters in the speeder and it was fun to just push around my living room. I mean, it was on these little wheels. I would say that was probably my favorite Star Wars toy, just because it was so universal. Batman could ride in it, G.I. Joes could ride in it, Luke Skywalker could obviously ride in it, but yeah, just this little Star Wars vehicle, the speeder. I would say that's probably my all-time favorite Star Wars toy. Garrett Scott asks, without being too specific in case you can't be, what sorts of non-HelloGreedo stuff do you do? You mentioned you are pretty much self-employed at this point, but HG is not your only gig. I guess what type of other services do you provide to your clients? Yeah, Garrett, I do a lot of non-HelloGreedo stuff. At the moment, without getting too specific, it's basically like similar to HelloGreedo stuff in terms of the technical aspects. I do photography, graphic design, that kind of stuff. But yeah, at the moment I'm doing that kind of stuff along with HelloGreedo, and I'm also using the GI Bill to go back to school. So I'm juggling a lot of things, but I like doing that kind of stuff where I'm constantly like from the moment I wake up to the moment the evening comes, I'm busy and I'm knocking shit out, whether it's HelloGreedo, whether it's stuff for clients, whether it's school stuff. I really like being busy. My wife complains sometimes because on the weekends, if we're just sitting around the house, I get antsy. I have a hard time just sitting still. I need to be working on something or doing something. So having a lot of projects and stuff like that really, it suits my personality. I like working on interesting stuff. Brandon Maltz asks, how did you and Miss Greedo meet? Oh, we've known each other, golly, since I was probably 15 or 16. I'm 31 now. So we've known each other since we were in high school. We always talked. We kept in touch. And then I went to the Navy. We didn't date anything in high school or anything like that. But then I went into the Navy, got out of boot camp. And then we kind of got back in touch, and then we've been together for almost 10 years. So, yeah. Oliard asks, do you hope that future Star Wars games will have canon stories? Also, what would be the perfect Star Wars game in your opinion? When it comes to canon in Star Wars games, I can kind of separate the canon and the fun, if that makes sense. I don't necessarily think that every single game in the Star Wars franchise has to adhere to canon. Sometimes I think things can just be fun, right? I mean, if we want a game where Luke Skywalker, I don't even know, where Luke Skywalker's doing something outside of Return of the Jedi that he did in Return of the Jedi, he's doing something different in Return of the Jedi, I'm fine with that in a video game. Like I said, I can separate the film canon and the game's canon. Fun, in my opinion, should always trump canon, especially in video games. But obviously, a game that adheres to the canon is fun too. But yeah, and you asked about my perfect Star Wars game. Well, right now, and this changes all the time, but what I really want right now is a Star Wars game similar to, let's say, Skyrim, right? Where you make your own character, you make your own decisions. It's a huge sandbox world. There are so many quests and missions you can go on. A game where you're not just playing as, I don't know, like a trooper running and gunning, but a game where you're actually living, not just playing in the Star Wars universe, where you could be anything you wanted. You could be, I don't know, somebody who makes blasters, and that could be your job, and you could have NPC merchants, and you could set up a shop. Or you could be the mayor of a town on Tatooine, or you could be a doctor, not just be a combat role in a Star Wars game. Does that make sense? I would love a game like that, like a Skyrim Star Wars type game, where it's just completely free roam, you make your own destiny, and I think the Star Wars universe is set up for a game like that. There are so many planets, there's so many different professions you could be. You could live in the Star Wars universe and not just play in it. I think that is my perfect Star Wars game. And as you can tell, that's really why Star Wars Galaxies is my all-time favorite Star Wars game. It was an MMO, came out in the early 2000s, and it was similar in that respect to what I'm talking about. But I think a modern Star Wars game that's similar to Skyrim would blow me away. Connor asks, what is your opinion on the upcoming Justice League movie? To tell you the truth, I really haven't seen any other DC movies. I haven't seen Batman vs. Superman. I haven't seen Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Wonder Woman yet. I don't know why. I just haven't got around to seeing them. I did watch the trailer for the Justice League movie. So I don't really have much of an opinion on it just because I haven't seen the previous DC films. I hope this one is good. And it seems like the general consensus is that the DC movies haven't been that great, other than Wonder Woman. So I really hope this one is decent. My favorite superhero of all time is Superman. And what DC's done with the Superman character, I'm not a big fan of. I did not like Man of Steel. I mean, I enjoyed the first half, I guess, but the second half, oh my god, I hated it. But yeah, for some reason, I just haven't been following any of the DC stuff, and so I apologize, Connor. I don't really have much of an opinion on the Justice League movie. I hope it's good, but I'm holding back my excitement, and I'll probably end up seeing it in the theater, just out of curiosity, but I don't have that much of a desire to actually go and see it, which is a shame, because growing up, I always preferred DC characters to Marvel characters for some reason, and that was just growing up, based off of comics and the toys that I had and the games that I played. So I really hope the Justice League movie kind of hits my nostalgia button right on the nose. Ryan DiDonato asks, what is your favorite space engagement in Star Wars, and why? I've always been a big fan of the A New Hope Death Star assault. It was so simple, and it was so much fun. It was so realistic. The chatter over the radio between pilots, the quick cutting in between different pilots' cockpits, the X-Wings banking and stuff like that, the trench run. It was so mind-blowing the first time that I saw it, and it still is today. And it is definitely my favorite space battle, I would say. And I know I've said before that Return of the Jedi, the ending space battle, might be my favorite, but I don't know. I like the simplicity of A New Hope's space battle. Good guys flying in, Death Star sitting there, gotta blow up the Death Star, bad guy ships come in, good guys fight bad guys. I don't know, it was just so simple. And I absolutely love it. I know George Lucas took a lot of inspiration from old World War II dogfighting footage and stuff like that. And it's pretty obvious once you see the side-by-side comparisons. So I think my favorite space engagement, as you said, is probably at the end of A New Hope, when the rebels go to destroy the Death Star, for its both simplicity and heroic ending. Mike Hawk asks, you've said earlier you experienced some challenges in your time at college. What's your best piece of advice for an incoming freshman looking to start strong? Also, using a one-word answer, what are you most looking forward to in The Last Jedi? Well, it's hard for me to give advice. I mean, I can just tell you what my experience was. I graduated high school in 2004, and I didn't really have a direction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and that's normal, right? Most people don't know what they want to do when they're that age. Shit, I'm older now, and I still don't know what the hell I want to do. But I just needed some direction. I needed some maturity. I think I just needed some life experience before I tackled or attempted to tackle college. I went to college in like 2005 through 2006. And I just didn't have the maturity level to finish up or even get very far. I wasted time playing games. It was a big waste of time, big waste of money. And that's why I just ended up enlisting into the Navy. I needed that structure. I needed that discipline, you know. But the only advice I can really give you, and this goes for anything, is that if you're doing something, just do it. Don't think about where you could be. Just realize that this is where you're going to be. You're going to be in college for the next 4 or more years. And just realize this is what you need to do. This is your focus. This is where your discipline is most needed. Now, a lot of people don't need that. It's pretty obvious. Some people just jump into it and they immediately accept it and they know what they need to do and they bust it out. But there's a lot of people like me who just needed some direction and discipline, and I wasn't ready for it. So yeah, the biggest advice is just realize where you are is where you're supposed to be, get it done, and then you can go on to other things. Then you can pursue other interests and goals. Get a job in the field that you want. Don't settle, don't settle. And don't be scared to change your major. A lot of people are scared when they get halfway through college and they decide that the thing that they were going for in the first place isn't what they want to do for the rest of their lives. So do not be afraid to change what you want to do. Everybody changes, If you're going to be like a PR relations person in college, getting a PR degree, and halfway through you change your mind and you want to do something else, you want to go into like music production, fuck it. Do it, right? You got to pursue the things that make you happy. And to answer your other question, using a one-word answer, what are you most looking forward to in The Last Jedi? One word. Unexpectedness? Is that even a word? Eric Wall. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? What do you mean? African or European swallow? Palpamine asks, what is your favorite Jawa in Star Wars? Explain in full detail of why you love that Jawa and also do an impression of what you'd think their mating call would be. Really interesting question, Palpamine. I guess my favorite Jawa would be the one that jumps in front of R2-D2 and pops up and shoots him in A New Hope as R2-D2's going through the canyon. Never really thought about it, man. But I guess that's my favorite Jawa. And as far as an impression of their mating call, Otini, Otini, Otini. That's probably their mating call, right? Killer35 Ray 4 asks, hello Greedo, with the construction of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and I live in Florida and am very excited for what is to come. What are you excited for and hope to see from this new addition to the Disney parks? The one thing that I'm really excited for, I guess, is the immersion. I really hope, obviously park guests will be very numerous in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, so people might take away from the immersion. But I think the immersion is the thing that I'm excited for the most. Just be able to walk down a street and everywhere I look, there's going to be something Star Wars, something that looks like it's from the Star Wars universe, whether it be buildings or speeders and just little trinkets. around the park. I think that's what I'm most excited for. Nothing in particular, but just the overall immersion that we're going to be stepping into. And what do I hope to see in the new edition? Less people. That's it. That's it, man. I've been living in Florida for a long time, and I enjoy going to Disney, but as I've gotten older, I find myself growing grumpier and grumpier. Mark Mueller asks, if you could have one prop or piece of memorabilia from a Star Wars movie, what would it be? Oh, it would 100% be Han Solo's DL-44 from A New Hope. I would love to have that mounted on my wall, a little certificate of authenticity just sitting right there. Obviously, that would never happen. I'm sure that would sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't even know where it is. It's probably in a museum. Who knows? But that's the thing that I think I would want to take home and have with me. I've always loved the look of the DL-44. It's modeled after, a German Mauser, I believe. It's just a pretty gun. Darth Nader asks, hey Greedo, if you could bring one thing from Legends into the movies, what would it be? And why would it be Chewie getting killed by a moon? It wouldn't be that. But if I could bring one thing, it might be maybe Kyle Katarn. I always enjoyed Katarn's stories in the games. A stormtrooper turned rebel who found out he was force sensitive. It was always an interesting story, and I liked the character of Kyle Katarn by himself. I guess the other character that I would want to bring back, and I know your question wasn't specifically about characters, but I would like to see Dash Rendar because I've always been a fan of Shadows of the Empire. With that being said, I'm not too pushy about bringing back Legends stuff into the new Star Wars canon. I'm completely fine with all of that being called Legends and never seeing any new products being produced with those characters from Legends at all. I mean, you guys know me, I want new stuff rather than old stuff. And while a lot of the Legend stuff is really cool, I mean, I really like Katarn and Dash, as I said, I'm completely fine with them staying in the lockbox of Legends. But I appreciate the question, Nader, and I'm looking forward to more PUBG. Jalen Rosario asks, will you ever watch Star Wars The Clone Wars TV show and do a review on it? Maybe, I've always said this, there is so much good TV on right now. Just so many interesting stories being told on television. Me and my wife constantly start up and finish new series all the time. And for me to actually sit down and watch The Clone Wars, I don't know if, I'm sure eventually I will, but I don't have that burning desire to go and watch it, like a lot of you guys want me to. And I understand there's a lot of really great character development in there. A lot of people tell me that the Clone Wars TV show actually makes the prequels better. You get a little more backstory, a little more in-depth character exploration, that kind of stuff. So I know I need to watch it, right? I know I need to. But it's just finding the time to sit down and go on a marathon of the Clone Wars. And my time is either spent doing HelloGreedo, watching stuff with my wife in the evening, doing non-HelloGreedo stuff for clients, working on schoolwork, and like I said, I don't know if I have the time right now to actually sit down and hash out some Clone Wars. But maybe in the future. I know I've been saying that for a while now, but the maybe is always there and it's still there. But if I ever did, I would absolutely do reviews on them. I don't know if I would do reviews on individual episodes. I would probably do full season recap reviews. That seems like it would be better than doing episode by episode, to me at least. Christopher Mueller asks, have you ever played a Star Wars pen and paper before? Like these from West End Games, WOTC, or Fantasy Flight? If not, would you try one day? No, I actually never have, Chris. I do have a desire, though. The problem is most of my buddies have moved away, and the friends that I still have in town, I don't know if they'd be very interested in playing something like that, tabletop stuff. And throughout my life, I've never really... I played Dungeons and Dragons a little bit in high school with some friends. It was more just to shoot the shit and have some fun. We didn't really take it too serious. We didn't play it that often. The only game that I really played a lot of, and it's not really a pen and paper type game in that kind of sense that you're talking about, but the game that I played the most, tabletop wise, back in the day, and it was a lot of elementary school and middle school, was a game called Talisman. And I've actually been wanting to pick it up. I see it on sale for like $50 on Amazon and eBay. I've always enjoyed the art style of that game, and I've always wanted to buy it again and play it as an older guy. Maybe get my friends involved, my wife, my buddy's wife, and sit down and play some Talisman. I don't know how it would work. I don't know if they'd be into it, but it would be more of a nostalgia trip for me, to tell you the truth. But long story short, no, I'd never played a pen and paper Star Wars game before, but I would be up for it. I know there's some local, like, gaming shops, I guess they are, or like gaming clubs in my city. I see them when I drive around. There's a couple of them. And maybe one day I would just stop in there and see what they're playing. Star Wars Media asks, honestly, I asked a lot of questions in the podcast, and yes, for everybody listening to this, I did a podcast with Star Wars Media. Go to HelloGreedo.com and click the little podcast button in the top right, and you'll see it, and you can listen to it. And Star Wars Media goes on to say, so I have no fresh ones right now, but I wanted to say thank you for all of the amazing content that you have produced. You have brought years of entertainment and insight to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. I can't wait to see what the future holds for HelloGreedo. No need to include this in your video, it's not a question. I'll absolutely include it, man. 100%. Thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate it, man. And good luck with your channel as well. It's gonna blossom. It's gonna blow up. I feel it. Ricard Astrono Mango Acrestrand asks, top 5 Star Wars vehicles. Tex, X-Wings, Millennium Falcon, Hammerhead, Corvette, etc. I'm pretty basic when it comes to my favorite Star Wars vehicles. And my top 5, and these are in no particular order, these are just my favorite 5. Mix and match them as you will. It would be the Millennium Falcon, TIE Fighters. I've always enjoyed the look of the Lambda class Imperial shuttle. Let's see, that's 3. And then your run-of-the-mill Star Destroyer. And then my number 1, and this I guess is my number 1 in a top 5, it would just be your run-of-the-mill X-Wing. I love me some X-Wings. Connor McCollum asks, if you could meet any cast member of Star Wars, alive or with the Force, who would it be? Oh, it would absolutely be Mark Hamill. I appreciate his enthusiasm. His energy for, like, talking to Star Wars fans and always being upbeat is hard to believe. Like, after 40 years of answering the same questions over and over and over again, telling the same stories over and over and over again, he's just so positive about it. He gets it, you know? He's a fan's fan. He's a Star Wars fan who gets it. So to be able to sit down and just talk with him, and I don't even know if I'd want to talk to him about Star Wars. You know, he's said pretty much everything that he needs to say. I've heard everything that he's ever said basically on the subject of Star Wars. So I think I would come up with other questions to ask him, or maybe just go in with no questions, crack a beer, shoot the shit, sit at the bar, talk about life. Ian Reichs asks, do you have any hopes for a Star Wars RTS game in the future? Absolutely. You know, I've made videos talking about the types of Star Wars games I want to see made. I actually just uploaded one yesterday. And I made a video asking the question, where are all the Star Wars games? And when it comes to games that I want to see made, an RTS is way up there. RTS games have always been some of my favorite genres of games. Company of Heroes and Age of Empires being the two favorite franchises. So to see a modern RTS set in the Star Wars universe is 100% something that I want to see. Am I hopeful that we'll see it soon? No, I'm not. Because there's no rumors, there's no information whatsoever discussing Star Wars RTS. And you know, mobile games don't count. I don't give a shit about mobile games. But yeah, an RTS is a huge hope for me. That we'll at least hear about one being released in the near future. RTS is a genre that kind of stands the test of time. You know, people still play the first iterations of Command and Conquer or even Age of Empires. Graphics don't really matter that much in the world of RTS. So a Star Wars game that is an RTS would, like I said, stand the test of time. And we need it. The Boss asks, what the fuck is Star Wars? It's a little indie porno. It's a little indie porno. Google it. Paul Robinson asks, hey dude, hope you're well. Now, I know you don't watch, but Doctor Who will be a woman for the first time next series. So, who is your favorite female lead and why? My favorite female lead out of any film? Interesting. When it comes to movies, I would say Sigourney Weaver in Alien, and Aliens as well. When it comes to television shows, oh man, that's really tough. That's a really tough one. But it might be Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager, played by Kate Mulgrew, I think, right? Yeah. Those are probably my two favorite female leads when it comes to film and television. Maybe I'm having a mind fart with something else that I really like. I mean, all the females in Westworld are incredible. I love Westworld. Orange is the New Black, of course. Yeah, I think Ripley and Captain Janeway. Yeah. Dawn Boring asks, "Hi, how are things?" Things are great. I know you have said that you shouldn't have to read a book to understand a Star Wars movie. If there was an interesting story that would have you consider checking out a novel, what kind of story would you like it to be? And what character would you want it to be about for you to read it? Yeah, just because I say that you shouldn't have to read external material outside of a film to understand the film doesn't mean that I don't want to engage with the books, if that makes sense. I think an audience member going into the theater should absolutely be able to know everything about what's going on in the world of the film without looking at external material. You shouldn't have to go to a comic or a book to learn more about a character. I mean, yeah, you can, but in the world of the film, you shouldn't have to know other stuff. The film should be able to tell you enough for you to understand what's going on, if that makes sense. But no, I'd be up for reading any type of Star Wars book, no matter what type of character, what type of story is presented. I read a little bit of Aftermath, I read a little bit of Lost Stars, and the reason that I stopped reading them isn't because I disliked them. It was just because I have a little bit of book ADD, I suppose. I have a stack of books on my nightstand, and it's kind of just whatever I'm in the mood for. So I'm halfway through a couple books, and if I plop in bed, if I'm in a reading mood, I'll just grab my Dwight D. Eisenhower book that I'm halfway through and read a couple pages, or pick up Ready Player One and read a couple pages. So yeah, it's not really necessarily that I'm against books or anything like that in the Star Wars universe. I just do this with every book that I own, unless it really gets to me. But for the most part, when I read nonfiction or biographies or books on science, or I have a tendency to get into hard science fiction, like Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson, that kind of stuff. So yeah, to answer your question, I'm up for anything. It's like I said, I have book ADD, man, and it's nothing against Star Wars books. It's just any book. That's what I do with them. Khalil Ismail asks, "Hey man, long-time subscriber. Good to see you, man. First-time patron here. So my question is, do you ever watch Disney or Pixar movies? If so, what's your top 5? I love that both companies' movies work for people of any age. I'm a junkie for all their movies." Oh yeah, man, for sure. It's incredible what Pixar and Disney have been able to do in terms of, like you said, being approachable by any age group. Somebody that's 5 years old will get something out of a Pixar or Disney movie. Somebody that's 95 years old will get something out of a Pixar or Disney movie. And to unlock that little secret of filmmaking and storytelling is incredible. It's just good storytelling, right? Good storytelling breaks any kind of boundary. It breaks any kind of social or age or gender boundary. A good story is a good story. And to answer your question about a top 5, it's hard for me to say, but I mean, obviously Toy Story, probably WALL-E. I've always been a fan of Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King. You know, all those Disney movies that I really grew up with. The singing was so great, the voice acting was so great, which is something that kind of like nowadays, it's weird for me to see Disney movies and hear just actors' voices. They have actors in these movies speaking a part just because people know that these actors are huge. They know that these names are going to bring people to the theater to see them. They know that it's going to increase the box office numbers, right? But that doesn't mean they're necessarily good voice actors. Footlong Shoe asks, Since your channel is centered around Star Wars, it makes sense that your non-Star Wars content still tends to focus on science fiction. My question is, are there any books, movies, franchises, etc. of other genre that you've ever considered making a video about? If so, what genre or franchise? I guess I've never really noticed that my non-Star Wars content focuses on sci-fi. It's just what I'm naturally gravitated towards. I like things that look to the future of maybe where humanity will be or how we will interact with extraterrestrials if that day ever comes where there's contact. I like seeing the human potential in science fiction, if that makes sense. But other genres I'd like to talk about, maybe history, maybe historic films or documentaries or books or people that I believe have something to say about modern society. But yeah, it's not like I'm planning out just to do sci-fi stuff. It just naturally comes that way. It's just what I've always been interested in. So if I were to make more non-Star Wars related videos, it would probably be focused on more science fiction. Like Star Trek even. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I mean, The Next Generation is my favorite Star Trek series, but, maybe if I made Star Trek videos on here, I would get tomatoes thrown in my face. Which is goofy. We can like both things, right? We can be friends. We can like both things. Cap Coldblood asks, here's a question that a lot of people don't look enough into, but that interests me quite a bit. If you had to choose a side in the Galactic Civil War, would you be an Imperial or a rebel? Would you be a ruthless soldier of a corrupt government or a terrorist bent on enforcing their own version of freedom? This is a deep philosophical question that requires a great deal of thought. I concluded that I would gladly serve the Empire because although Palpatine is a self-centered tyrant, the established government is what should be upheld. I've looked too far into this, enough to make me feel emotional at the thought of joining the Empire, and I wanted to drag you down here with me, thanks. Well, I would absolutely join the rebellion. When a system is as corrupt and ruthless, led by a tyrannical dictator who wants to squash oppression, who wants to squash free speech, who wants to enforce ridiculous laws, who wants to turn his rule into a military dictatorship. The military is in charge, right? I think when a system of government comes to that point, there's no reason for that government to stay intact. Thomas Jefferson said, "The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants." And I firmly believe that. When somebody like Palpatine is just ruling with an iron fist, it's time to bring the system down to its ashes, to its studs, and rebuild the system in a way where democracy flourishes and the average citizen has a say. And you said, yes, Palpatine is a tyrant. And just because he is the head of the snake and the rest of the machine is the body of the snake, just because you cut that head off, just because you cut Palpatine out of power, doesn't mean that some equally evil dictator will not fill its place, will not become the new snake's head. So sometimes you just gotta chop that snake up into a million fucking pieces, throw it in the fire, and build anew. And not to mention, I would join the rebellion just because I always pull for the underdogs. As long as the underdogs have a meaningful vision, a meaningful solution to the problems, as long as they're fighting for an ideal of freedom and liberty through the galaxy. So yeah, I would join the rebellion. But thank you for the interesting question, man. I appreciate it.
With you would cannot be